All right, so today we're going to talk about solving equations with fractions and decimals. So it's the same process it was before, just a little bit harder. So let's start with this one. We're going to have 2 over 5, so 2/5 x plus 3 equals 15. So you don't have to write this first example down quite yet, because we could solve this exactly how we have been solving, where we isolate the variable. So we would move that 3 over, and then you would multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, that's when you flip the fraction. And what happens there is this fraction would cancel, and then we would have 12 times 5, and then divide by 2, which would leave us with 30. So you could do that. The problem is when we get more fractions in the equation, we're going to be dealing with adding and subtracting the fractions, getting common denominators, multiplying them, and so on. So instead, we're going to practice just getting rid of the fraction. So if I have 2/5 x plus 3 equals 15, now you write this one down. Okay, to get rid of the fraction, I'm going to look for the denominators. Now this equation only has one fraction. The denominator, remember, is the bottom of the fraction, so it's this 5. If you multiply the entire equation by the denominator, we'll get rid of our fraction. And again, that is when we just have the one fraction. We'll go through some where we have multiple fractions. We have to find the least common multiple, but for right now, we can just multiply by that denominator. And what happens there is we multiply this 5 to the first fraction. That would give us 5 times 2 is 10. 10 divided by 5 would be 2. Bring your x down. And then we're going to multiply the 5 to the 3 to get plus 15. And then on the other side, we have 15 times 5, which is 75. And now we're down to our normal solving. So I can subtract 15 from both sides to isolate my variable. That leaves me with 2x on one side, 60 on the other. Divide by 2, and x is 30. Okay? Let's try another one like that just to make sure we got it. So this is number 2, example number 2. We have 9 minus 3 over 7x equals 2x plus 5. So same thing on this one. We only have one fraction, so we're going to pull that denominator and we're going to multiply everything on each side by that denominator. That's what keeps this in the same equation. We're just multiplying everything by 7. Okay, so we're going to distribute our 7 over here. 7 times 9 would be 63. Then we're going to do the fraction. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 divided by 7 would be minus 3x. And then distribute your 7 on the other side. 7 times 2x is 14x. 7 times 5 would be plus 35. Now we need to get our x's on one side, our numbers on the other. I'm going to move my smaller x just because that's what I like to do. So I'm going to add 3x to each side. Now I have 63 equals 17x plus 35. I'm going to subtract 35 from each side to get my x by itself. 63 minus 35 would be 28. Last step, divide by 17. And that comes out to be 1.65 equals x. Remember, if you're not good with that, you need a little bit of reinforcement. Welcome to use a calculator. All right, now you guys write this one down, and I want you to try it on your own. 4 equals 3 plus 5 over 2x. Go ahead and pause the video and try that one. All right, now let's do some that are a little bit harder. So now these are going to have multiple fractions in them. So our third example together is 3 over 2x minus 2 equals 4 minus 3 over 8x. So now I have two fractions, which means I have two denominators. Unfortunately, in this one, those denominators are not the same. We have a 2 and we have an 8. So I'm going to list those over here, and we need to find the least common multiple. Well, what's really nice is 8 is an even number, and I know that 2 goes into what? 2 goes into 4, 6, 8. Oh, look, they have 8s in common, so that would be our least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by that 8. Okay, let's see what happens. So when I do it over here, we have 8 times 3 is 24. 24 divided by 2 would be 12. 8 times 2 would be minus 16. Then on the other side, we have 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 3, again, is 24. 24 divided by 8 would be 3. So our fractions are gone. Okay, now we're going to get our x's on one side, so I'm going to move my smaller x by adding 3x to both sides, so this is gone. That leaves me with 15x minus 16, and then just a 32 on the other side. We're going to get our numbers together next, so I'm going to add my 16 over. He's gone. We're left with 15x equals 48. And then our last step, divide by 15, and x comes out to be 3.2. Okay, so that's when you have multiple fractions. Let's look at another one like that, just make sure we got it. So let's do 7 over 4 x plus 3 over 2 plus 5 over 7 equals 11 over 14. So this one has a lot of different denominators in it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to list them. So we have a 2, a 4, a 7, and a 14. So let's go through some multiples, see if we can find a common one. I'm going to put those in a different color just so they're separate. So 2, I would go into 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, I can keep going. Let's see what happens. 4 can go into 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. 7 can go into 7, 14, 21, 28, 14, 28. Okay, right now I'm seeing a 28 that's consistent, and I know 2 goes into 28 because it's even. So I'm going to go ahead and just list him up here because I ran out of room. All right, so 28 would be my least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation, each side of the equation, by 28. Let's see what happens. So when I multiply it by 28, we're going to do 28 times 7, hit enter, divide by 4. That should leave you with 49x. Now do the next one. So 28 times 3, hit equals, divide by 2. That should give you 42. Do the next one, 28 times 5. And then divide by 7. That should give you 20. Make sure you're working this out with me to make sure we plug everything in correctly. And then do the other side. 28 times 11, hit equal, divide by 14, and you get 22. Now we're down to solving like normal. So we're going to combine our like terms. We have 42 and 20. Gives us 62. Now I'm going to solve. So to get my x alone, we're going to subtract 62 to both sides. That leaves us with 49x on one side. 22 minus 62 would be negative 40. Then I'm going to divide by 49 on each side, and x comes out to be negative 0.82. Okay, now you try one. So you guys try this one. You're going to do 7 over 3x plus 7 over 12 equals 1 over 4x plus 3. Go ahead and pause the video and try that one on your own. All right, so there's fractions. Now we're going to talk about decimals. So with our decimals, you're going through the exact same process. It's just a little bit different because we have decimals instead of whole numbers, but the process is identical. So we have 9.12, this is our first example, or our fifth example for the day, equals negative 4.2x plus 6.6x. So when we go through the process, we're still looking at the same steps. I look for distribution. I don't have any distribution on this one, okay, but I do have like terms. I can put these guys together. So I'm going to bring down my 9.12. And then I'm going to put these guys together. Negative 4.2 plus 6.6 leaves me with 2.4x. I don't need to move anything. My variable is already alone, so I'm just going to go ahead and divide by 2.4. Divide by 2.4. So this is gone, and we're left with x equals 3.8. Okay, let's try another one. So the sixth example. Oh, this one's a long one. I'm going to go down a little bit so I have room. Whoops. All right, the sixth example is negative 0.6 minus 3.8x minus 6.1x equals negative 8.28 minus 6.2x minus 2.5x. Okay, so there's no distribution, so we don't need to distribute. So now I'm going to look for combining like terms. So I'm going to look on each side of my equal sign. So here's my dotted line. On this left side, I can put my x's together. Okay, when I do negative 3.8 minus 6.1, we get negative 9.9x. Then on the other side, my x's go together again. So I'm going to bring down this negative 8.28. Negative 6.2 minus 2.5 leaves us with negative or minus 8.7x. Now we're going to solve. So I need to get my x's on one side, my numbers on the other. I'm going to go ahead and move this 8.7x. Anything I do to one side, we still have to do to the other. So this guy's gone. We're left with negative 0.6 minus 1.2x is what that leaves us with. I'm going to bring my negative 8.28 down on the other side. Now I'm going to get my numbers together. So I need to isolate my variable. Here's my variable. So I'm going to add 0.6 to this side. Anything I do to one side, we have to do to the other. So I'm going to add 0.6 on the other side. So this guy's gone. Bring down your negative 1.2x. Negative 8.28 plus 0.6 leaves us with negative 7.68. And our last step, like we have been doing, would be division. So that's gone. We're left with x equals negative 6.4. Whoops, that should be a positive. And that is definitely not a y. Negative divided by negative is a positive. So there is your answer. So now you guys try this one. This is your last one. 6.5 times 2.6 plus 6.2x equals negative 208.78.